Welcome to Campfire Tales. For this week's tale, I've chosen a story that seems fitting for both our current global times, but also one that circulates the area that I live in, Minnesota. This version is from a book that I received as a gift called Epic Myths for Fearless Girls, written by Claudia Martin and illustrated by Coale. I'll link to that in the notes. So this story is called Tanis and the Windigo, and it's based on an Ojibwe myth. In Ojibwe mythology, the Windigo is a malevolent, cannibalistic spirit that's associated with winter, famine, and insatiable greed. These stories often serve as cautionary tales about the dangers of isolation, loss of humanity, and unchecked desires. So here we go. Tanis and the Windigo. A long time ago, in the land that we now know as North America, a girl called Tanis crunched through fresh winter snow. She turned to admire her trail of perfect, even footprints. But the paw prints of her puppies, Zagi and Minnow, wound around her own footsteps, making loops and sudden playful zigzags. Good boy, Zagi, she said, patting her puppy's shaggy head. He snuffled at her hand, warming her cold fingers with his damp breath. Now Mino bounded up, wetting her skirt with his soggy feet. He sniffed urgently at Tanis's pocket. Oh, you want lunch already? I'm hungry too, but Grandma has asked us to collect sumac. We must do that before we eat, she said firmly. She tousled Mino's fur. Then they saw a sumac bush, its red berries bright as flames among the snow in the dark, leafless trees. The spears of berries, well, they seemed like the only living things in the forest. Through the long, cold winter, Tanis and Grandma could eat the berries. Grandma also knew how to make tea from the sumac leaves to cure the village's coughs. She would boil the shrub's roots and twigs to make a paste for hunters' wounds. Tanis plucked berries and twigs, placing them carefully in her bag. Her belly was grumbling with hunger, but Grandma was relying on her to bring back a full bag. Suddenly, there was a flutter of red feathers among the branches. It was an opeechee, an American robin. It was small and alone, its feathers ruffled. Oh no! You stayed too late in the year, little Opeechee. You should have flown south, Tanis chided gently as the bird stared at the berries in her hand. She knew hunger when she saw it. Her own belly gave a painful twist. Do you need some berries, Opeechee? She held out her red-stained palm. The bird pecked a berry, then another, and then another. Mino prodded her with a paw. All right, we'll have our lunch together, Tanis laughed. She settled herself on a log and took out a piece of rice bread from her pocket. This was all she had. It had been the worst summer anyone could remember. Rain had drowned the garden plants, fish had flickered away from the nets, deer hid among the trees. Everyone in the village was hungry, their cheeks hollow, their ribs sharp. Tanis ripped the bread into three. One piece was smaller than the others. Mino and Zagi watched her closely. She gave her dogs the bigger portions, keeping the littlest piece for herself. She swallowed it in 3 bites. The Opeechee made a high twitter of alarm, and then Mino leaped to his feet, his fur bristling. What is it? What's wrong? She gasped. And then she smelled it. A stink of rotting fish and dirty flesh. She swallowed hard. The Opeechee darted away. Mino barked wildly, leaping back and forward in terror. An icy wind blasted her face, the chill burrowing into her teeth and her bones. Zagi seized her skirt in his mouth and tugged her to her feet. Something was coming. Something was coming through the forest breaking the branches as it pushed past. And that stink, it was growing stronger. Run, she said. They sprinted between the trees, the snow flying beneath their feet. As the village came into view, Tanis saw a knot of people among the wigwams. Something's coming! Something's coming! She shouted. Everyone turned to her, their faces white with fear. The Windigo! Cried one of the hunters. Its claws! He clasped his hands to his eyes. It tried to snatch us before. Tanis had heard the tales of the Windigo. Grandma had told her how the Windigo came in times of great famine. It was filled with a terrible hunger, but the more it ate, the hungrier it grew. Nothing could satisfy its belly. Not deer, not elk, not hunters, not even children. What shall we do? Tanis gasped. There's nothing we can do, groaned another hunter. When the Windigo comes, all is lost. We must flee. We stand the best chance if we go our separate ways. No, no, Tanis moaned. Grandma will know what to do. She ran toward Grandma's wigwam, at the edge of the village under the pines. Grandma, Grandma, she cried, ducking into the warm darkness of the wigwam. Grandma was crouching on the skins, whittling a stick of sumac with her knife. So, it's finally come, said the old woman. I knew it would. I heard that over in the village beyond the lake. They are so hungry that one of the hunters stole from his friends. In the winter, when we turn on each other, each one for themselves, that is when the Windigo comes. But there must be something we can do, Tanis despaired. Tears pricked her eyes. Grandma looked up, her face marked by many long years of work and worry. The Windigo is stronger than any hunter, hungrier than any wolf. There is no pity in its heart of ice, no gentleness in its jagged claws. Would you want to fight such a creature? Tanis gulped. Yes, yes, I want to save the village. Grandma nodded, her eyes glinting. She gave her granddaughter the 2 sticks of sumac that she had been peeling. They were as long as the girl's arms. Take these sticks, little one. Go and fight the Windigo. With sumac sticks? Asked Tanis. Don't forget, the smallest things can be the most powerful, answered Grandma. Without looking back, the girl strode through the village, clasping the sticks tightly in her fists. Zaggy and Mino trotted close by her side. The villagers watched them pass. Tanis and her dogs strode into the forest, the stench of rot growing stronger and stronger as they walked deeper into the shadows. It also grew colder and colder. The branches crackled with frost. The girl's heart fluttered in her chest like a bird trying to break free and fly to safety. Zaggy whimpered. Then something shifted in the darkness, and Tanis cried out in fear. The Windigo crawled from its hiding place, huge and stinking. It was like nothing she'd ever seen before. It crouched, spider-like, its long, folded limbs waiting to spring. Its skin was both as dark as the darkest midnight and as bright as the lights that sometimes danced in the sky. Powerful muscles rippled across its body, but its head was no more than a skull, with all flesh long since gone, and it had great long horns that curled among the branches. The girl shivered in the monster's deadly cold. With a sickening snarl, a black dog appeared and darted from the gloom, its lip curled, showing vicious teeth. The beast was 4 times the size of poor Mino and Zaggy, and like any hunter, the Windigo had a dog to snatch its kill. Mino and Zaggy shrank back amongst Tanis's skirts. She felt them shaking with fear and cold. But then, with a brave bark, both Mino and Zaggy darted at the Windigo's evil dog. Startled, the black beast turned and scampered through the trees, chased by Mino and Zagi. And then Tanis was alone with the Windigo. The squatting monster towered above her, as tall as a tree, as wide as a torrent. The Windigo flicked out a long tongue, taking its slow time. It licked its hungry lips. It was picking its moment to pounce. Her arms shaking, Tanis lifted her sticks. The Windigo stared at her, its eye sockets unblinking. What could she do with sticks? If she tried to hit the creature, it would swat her away like a fly. She wanted to run. Oh, she wanted to run and be home in her warm wigwam. But she gripped her sticks tighter. The Windigo lunged, opening its mouth wide. And out of the corner of her eye, Tanis glimpsed a flash of red feathers. The little Opeachy darted between her and the Windigo. The Windigo turned its head. Tanis hurled the sticks then as hard as she could. And as Grandma's sumac sticks swung through the air, they turned from dull wood into shining copper. The metal rod struck the Windigo with a clang like a knife on a frozen lake, and the Windigo shattered. Its withered flesh smashed into 1,000 shards of ice. And there, where the Windigo had been, crouched a man. He moaned as if startled from sleep. "It's the hunter!" came an angry voice from behind her. "The hunter from beyond the lake, the one who stole food from his friends." The villagers were coming out of the shadows now. Someone put an arm around Tanis. Another clapped her on the back. Her heart was pounding. The hunter looked confusedly around him. "I'm so hungry," he murmured. "The Windigo is a warning to all of us," said Grandma, pushing her way through the crowd. "The Windigo comes when we give way to our selfish hearts. Only a truly generous heart can destroy it." She grabbed the hunter's jacket and hauled him to his feet. "We'll let your village elders deal with you." The villagers murmured their agreement. Zagi and Minnow trotted out of the bushes, their tails wagging. The girl knelt to hug them, letting them lick her face with their warm tongue. Grandma rested her hand on Tanis's tired head. "You know, because you helped that little Opeachy, it helped you in return. Truly generous hearts recognize one another, little one." And there, perching on a sumac branch, the Opeachy twittered happily. And this was the story of Tanis and the Wendigo. Now, let's go over a few of the symbols and their meanings. And just as a reminder, this isn't meant to be a deep dive or exhaustive list of symbologies. We're doing these in bite-sized chunks, okay? Let's start with Tanis, our protagonist. So Tanis represents the human spirit's resilience and capacity to confront the shadow. From a Jungian perspective, she also represents the ego, the conscious self, that is constantly engaged in a dialogue with the unconscious, whether we realize it or not. Obviously, as Grandma said throughout the story, a generous heart is the one who can beat the Windigo. Tanis represents the bravery and the courage and the generous heart needed to confront the shadow. Now, the two dogs are always in stories representative of a part of our psyche. So even though they seem like they are external elements, they're actually parts of our psyche. And in this story in particular, they represent the grounding forces and instinctual wisdom that Tanis has. They're both protectors, guiding her through the wilderness and standing as companions, but they also embody the instinctual animalistic aspects of the psyche, like the loyal allies who are integrated and aligned with our conscious self. The dogs are also a symbol of duality, exactly like the duality of nature: ferocious yet loyal and loving, fearful yet brave. The snow-covered forest is a symbol, a place of isolation, silence, and stark survival. The forest is cold, it's vast, it's unforgiving, and it reflects the unconscious and the liminality where transformation often occurs. The Wendigo's hunger is an insatiable consuming force that devours everything in its path. But the hunger here is psychological and spiritual, representing unchecked desires, greed, and the emptiness that comes from losing one's moral compass. From a Jungian lens, the shadow's appetite is a destructive drive that seeks fulfillment through annihilation rather than connection. The sumac sticks that turn into spears. Initially, these are unassuming things, but they undergo a transformation to become weapons against the Wendigo. This symbolizes the potential for ordinary, overlooked aspects of the self or the environment to become tools for protection and healing. What's interesting is that the choice of sumac in the story, it's a plant associated with both toxicity and medicinal properties, which again reflects this duality of life and death, danger, salvation. And then finally, the opichi, the little robin, is a symbol of hope, renewal, and divine intervention. The robin, which is often associated with the arrival of spring, symbolizes the renewal of life and the triumph of light over darkness. Its role as a distractor in the story also aligns with the trickster archetype, although it is a benevolent form. And from the Jungian lens, this robin could also represent the spontaneous appearance of insight or intuition. So, Tanis, as our protagonist, must integrate the wisdom of the natural world, like the sumac and the opichi, and the instinctual power of her companions, the dogs, to confront the shadow, the Wendigo. Each element symbolizes a different aspect of the psyche or the natural world working in harmony to restore balance. At the end of the day, the story is really about the interplay of intuition, instinct, and conscious effort in overcoming the shadow. All right, I really hope that you enjoyed this campfire tale, and I would love to hear what you thought of it and what else you might think the story symbolizes. All right, I'll see you in the next campfire tale.